stress resiliency to me and that type of experience is one of clearing the interference from our lives, since I believe we're connected to and through the greatest source of power, light, lessons, an omniscient, all-powerful source of pure happiness and joy. And I try to focus and shift my paradigm to have that stress resilience that the expert effect allows us to do. And so I was still hoping that you could explain how that stress resilience works within the context of expert effect.
So, a lot of times we're always looking at how can we relieve our stress, how can we reduce it? But our philosophy, the team of stress resiliency experts that we have is, hey, if someone's really good at what they do, if they're accelerating, they are going to encounter more and more stress. There's no way to reduce it. If you're good at what you do, there's more stress. If you produce a lot of children, there's more stress. So with that said, we're looking at how can we make someone more resilient to stress with their mind, and also how can we make their body more resilient to stress so stress just doesn't affect them as much anymore. So the biggest thing that I've kind of been seeing lately in just today's world, it's kind of related to interference, is feeling overwhelmed. I mean, you think of everyone on this Instagram, how many people are feeling overwhelmed in this moment? And I'm thinking it's a pretty high percentage. And that actually impacts their mental ability to be resilient to stress.
Everyone has this, circle of what they're very comfortable doing. Then there's this area that you're talking about called the learning zone, and it's outside, and everyone's learning zone is different, determined upon, as you said, how many children they have, how much they take on in the activity they get paid for, how much they take on in activity they don't get paid for. And then there's a third zone, which is the anxiety zone. And you're talking about people who are overwhelmed. And if people are overwhelmed, if you can live in the learning zone, I feel as if with companies like Expert Effect, you can learn to grow your learning zone. So what used to make you anxious now sits in your learning zone, and that actually brings you joy and adrenaline and excitement and dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and endorphins. But people that push themselves too hard live in that overwhelm zone. It actually works in the opposite direction. Instead of expanding along the lines of the universe, it constricts. So pretty soon, what used to be your learning zone, right, is now, it goes down until you can't get out of bed and you have a nervous breakdown, or, unfortunately other things, depression, and even taking our own lives. Where if you accelerate and expand, your learning zone is always over encompassing your anxiety zone, and even better, your comfort zone is now what used to be in your learning zone. So you can handle so much more efficiently. How does the expert effect help with these zones in identifying it and being able to put yourself in the best position to expand instead of to constrict?
Number one, I think it's just brilliant. The model that you've developed, it's just solid. And this would really fall under our performance psychologists. So they'll meet with people, do 45-minute sessions to really drill in. And, like you said, that anxiety zone can overtake. And I think, when it comes to people feeling overwhelmed, they think it's just a state of being that, because of their role, because of their life situation, they are overwhelmed. And they believe they don't have a choice. But what our performance psychologists are finding is that people have a choice to be overwhelmed. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even changing the circumstances. So changing the circumstances can reduce the anxiety zone, and there's like learning involved, and I do have control over my life and my work, but oftentimes my emotions keep me in these states. So if we can choose on how to, change our circumstances, but even without changing the circumstances, just making a conscious choice that I do not need to be overwhelmed in this moment. I don't need to stay in a state of being overwhelmed the entire day. And there's a learning curve to that, because we as a society have just taught ourselves that being overwhelmed is inevitable and it's a human state. And a lot of people are staying in that state for a long time. So if we can learn how to get out of that state on a more and more consistent basis, the better.
What other things does Expert Effect do to help facilitate the resiliency in being able to handle and grow the amount of stress that we can take?
Something that I just love that we're doing, it's called our stress resiliency experiences. And it's where we curate an experience for a group of people. So it might be a sports team. It might be, the leadership team of a company. It could be anyone. And then we curate an event that is tailored to them, that would be a home run for them. And, rather than have them get in a conference room and learn about stress resiliency, we get them into a stress relieving environment. So we did one in the backyard of someone's home for a board that had a gorgeous backyard. And so we get people in this place where they can experience relieving stress, experience getting out of those feelings of being overwhelmed. And then our experts are there imparting knowledge. So if you can get knowledge and then experience that right away, you walk away so motivated to take action in that area. Where if you sit in a conference room and just experience it, you're motivated, but you often don't take the action you need. So we're kind of getting people, and then we're getting them out of that anxiety zone and like a learning zone, where if they're in a relaxed environment, a place that's beautiful, their learning zone goes off the chart.